Well, welcome back to the Megan Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today we're talking about the history of Lucky 13 tattoos. The Megan Show. If you are watching this video on the day it's released, it's my birthday, January 13th, 1996. I turned 29 today. When I was brainstorming ideas on what kind of topic I wanted to cover today, I was thinking about January 13th, it's my favorite number, and I was like, wait, Lucky 13 tattoos, talking about the history and the origin of Lucky 13 tattoos. They kind of have an ironic history that's interesting, and then that snowballed into talking about Friday the 13th tattoos, so we're going to talk about how that came into popularity, and then I have my own personal story about my own 13 tattoos, so let's get into it. If you are even a little bit familiar with tattoos or the industry altogether, you have probably heard the name Sailor Jerry before. He is one of the founding fathers of the American traditional style, and he is an icon in the tattoo industry. I actually touched on a lot more of his history in a previous video I did about talking about a lot of different tattoo styles, where I talked more in depth about the American traditional style, so I'll definitely link that up in the cards if you want to check out that video. But for this video, we're going to touch specifically on the Lucky 13, the history of that specific design. The Lucky 13 tattoo design was a way to turn superstition on its head, and sailors were getting these tattoos in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s to ward off bad luck, or be kind of like an ironic good luck charm against bad luck. 13 was already a superstitious number, and there was even a flash sheet of Sailor Jerry's that says superstition is for sissies. Now I know we don't use that word anymore, but gotta take it for what it was. And it was a way to kind of ward off bad luck, to be like, we don't believe in superstition, we're getting the number 13 because we don't believe in superstition. Back in those days, speed was especially important, so a lot of the designs were pretty simple, but they were iconic symbols that could last the test of time. Things like skulls, daggers, and of course the Lucky 13. So these are tattoo designs that celebrated things that other people were in fear of. And so that's how the Lucky 13 fits right in. A couple of decades after Sailor Jerry's death, in the 1990s, famous or now infamous tattoo artist Oliver Peck is said to have popularized the Friday the 13th tattoo idea, once again turning superstition on its head. Oliver Peck, while he's a controversial individual, and I definitely don't support anyone doing blackface, no matter how old you were, what year it was, any of that, it's always horrible. He was and still is a prolific American traditional tattoo artist, and I'm sure he has great respect for Sailor Jerry and all of the work he did, and that's why he falls in line with Sailor Jerry's idea of the Lucky 13 tattoos, and I'm sure that's why he thought to throw the Friday the 13th tattoo party to subvert the idea that Friday the 13th is a bad day, and he chose to celebrate it instead of thinking it's a bad day, and created something that became very, very popular, continues to be popular to this day. Now Friday the 13th tattoos are everywhere. People look forward to participating in Friday the 13th tattoos, getting those good deals. You usually get tattoos for pretty cheap, and you can get really cool and fun tattoos on Friday the 13th pretty much everywhere now. I was born on January 13th, so 13 has always been an important number to me. So when I was going to LA for the very first time a couple of years ago, I thought to myself, before I even left on the trip, all right, one of the things I would love to do while I'm out there is get a tattoo, a permanent reminder of the trip, and I wanted it to be 13 on my arm, and this is what I got. So I've got my little 13 tattoo written in kind of typewriter font right under the crux of my elbow. Right, I think it was the last day of my trip. First of all, that trip was absolutely awesome. I loved it. We did so many fun things. I visited my friend Megan out there. She let me stay with her, and it was so awesome. I visited her again like a year later, and that was also amazing. So for this trip, it was like the last full day I was there, and we were able to get in for a tattoo walk-in, actually, in North Hollywood, and we got there right as it was opening at noon, I remember. And we just walked right in, and I told the guy what I was wanting. He hooked me up, and this was, of course, like the quickest tattoo ever. It was 10 minutes. It was also the first time I had been tattooed with a wireless machine. That was really cool. and it barely hurt at all. And next thing you know, I've got my new tattoo. And at that time, this was only my third tattoo ever. So at that time, I only had my little treble clef tattoo I had gotten when I was 21 years old, many years ago. And then I had gotten my big lady head tattoo probably just a few months before. And then in October of 2022 is when I got my 13 tattoos. So that was super fun. I also remember something funny. I remember right at the end of the appointment was, of course, I was getting ready to pay. He told me it was $120, which I thought was a little steep, but of course that's just the way it is. I was in LA and, you know, I was willing to pay that, of course, but I gave him a $20 tip, so I paid him $140. And I remember him like being wide-eyed and being like, oh my God. And so then I was like, oh, is tipping not a normal thing? And I can't even remember what his response was, or like he was just grateful. So then after the fact, I was like, dang, was the 120 like on the high end? Like, was he including tip in his mind with that, or they don't do tip? I don't really know, but I gave the man $140 and was happy as a clam with my brand new tattoo, and it was so fun, and I'm so glad I did it. So that is just the brief history of Lucky 13 tattoos and how I ended up getting one myself and what it means to me. I thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.